Okay, so I was just about finished editing this video when I saw that my arch nemesis, Craig, just uploaded a video with the exact same topic. Coincidence? I think not! Just kidding. John's the best. Funny how that happens though. One of the most common comments I get on my videos is, why don't you just use a computer or a smartphone to make your music instead of hardware? And to be fair, just in terms of practicality and horsepower, I kind of get their point. So why the heck are so many people still willing to invest so heavily in hardware? I would like to think that by now, most of the synth community can agree that the days of arguing over whether or not digital synths can compete against analog synths in terms of raw sound quality are mostly over. Not only have VSTs been able to closely emulate the warmth of analog vintage machines, but in many ways, they offer more sonic possibilities and flexibility than would ever be possible on hardware circuits. They also happen to be cheaper, they don't take up any physical space, and you can have multiple instances of them running simultaneously on your DAW of choice. Well, I'm here to play the devil's advocate and tell you why I still like my synths with some cushion for the pushing. Number 1, actually touching an instrument. I've always found it fascinating how words shape our perception of the world around us. In Spanish, we don't say we play an instrument, we say we touch an instrument. My first instrument ever was a guitar. To this day, I love the feel of the strings on my fingers and that sensation of the music being created by my picking or strumming on the instrument. I realized that for me, an essential part of the music making experience is actually holding an instrument in my hands and feeling it, sliding faders, twisting knobs, pushing down keys. That experience is something that I just can't get out of a mouse and keyboard, and it's part of what makes the experience enjoyable. I want to underline the word experience, which I've repeated here, since I think that there has been a cultural shift in focus towards producing music for production's sake, and the actual enjoyment of the moment of making music has taken a back seat. It's very in line with our current hustle and grind culture, where it doesn't matter if you enjoy your art in private. What matters is how many songs you have uploaded to Spotify and how many times it's been streamed for it to be considered valuable. I can't remember how many times I've been judged for having all of this gear on display without having that much public output, as if my music was any less valuable just because the only one listening to it is me. At the point where I'm at now in my musical journey, my main priority is enjoying my time experimenting and savoring the sounds and music I'm making, rather than focusing on releasing music so I can please other people's expectations. And I just find that I enjoy that process more when I have something physical to latch onto. Number 2, hunter-gatherer. I don't think I know anyone who loves hardware synths who doesn't also have a collector side to them. Some people like to collect and trade baseball cards, others collect sealed action figures or mint condition magazines. Well, apart from loving music, I happen to love collecting and trading music hardware. I'm always on the lookout for a good deal on the used market, and one of the cool things about hardware instruments is that if you don't particularly gel with one, you can pretty easily sell or barter to get something else to try out. Long before my YouTube channel, I would enjoy getting to meet people who, just like me, were fascinating by just getting to know the different tools available to make music nowadays. You might call it consumerism, and to a certain point, you're not wrong, but I find that when I look upon my small collection of carefully curated instruments, I'm filled with a certain sense of satisfaction, which is just as nice as actually sitting down with my instruments and playing them. Speaking of trading gear, one of the reasons that I always get good deals on my used synths is because they're very well taken care of, and that's largely thanks to today's sponsor, Analog Cases. Analog Cases have been making high-quality cases for synth heads to store and transport their gear for years now, and they have an assortment of specifically made cases for a huge range of popular synthesizers and samplers. Some of my favorites are my Unison hard case for my MPCX SE and my Track Pack Backpack, and the Track Pack Backpack, and the Track Pack Backpack, where I can fit in my Ableton Push 3, as well as my computer, cables, camera, and maybe a banana, just in case I get hungry. If you're looking for high quality cases, desktop stands, or Pro XDS stands, remember that you can get a 10% discount using my affiliate links down below. Thank you, Analog Cases, for sponsoring today's video. Number 3, limit your gas. This might seem a bit paradoxical, but I believe that hardware instruments actually help to limit your gas. Let me explain. When I started getting into synths and the magical world of electronic music, I quickly discovered the world of software plugins and sound libraries. And just like many of you, I'm sure, I spent a small fortune buying the usual new producer starter pack. Serum, Native Instruments Complete Library, Diva, etc, etc, etc. There was just no stopping my lust for plugins, and the more plugins I bought, the more plugins I thought I needed. The problem, aside from absolutely wrecking my bank account, is that plugins don't fill up a room. They don't raise suspicion from your parents or make your spouse ask you what the hell all those boxes are doing on the living room. Since there's no physical evidence of your instruments, you can dig yourself into a pretty deep financial hole without even realizing it. Especially for someone with a dangerously addictive personality such as myself, hardware has the huge advantage of actually taking up physical space, and since I have a very real limit to how much room I have in my studio, I have to think long and hard about what stays and what goes each time I think about buying a new piece of gear. That hard space cap also has the advantage of making you really have to choose what's in your setup in regards to the musical role and function of the instrument in that general setup. With plugins, I found that it's only too easy to buy soft synths that are basically the same thing. Can't tell you how many Juno VST clones I had installed at some point. Hardware, on the other hand, by being limited, usually also has a very defined function and forces you to curate your band players in a much stricter way, which in the end results in making more music. Number 4. Crippling updates and subscription models. One of the things that I most love about my hardware synths is that they can never be taken away from me, nor will they ever become obsolete or unsupported. In other words, rendered useless because either the new OS on my computer can't run them, or that the manufacturer decided that they wanted to change the ownership model into a subscription. I'm never gonna get an email telling me that next Wednesday I need to start paying $15 so I can just keep on playing my Subsequent 37, or that I can't play my Polybrute anymore because it's not compatible with the newly released macOS Mk2. It sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud, but many of my old plugins have aged terribly in comparison to my hardware synths. Worst example by far is my Native Instruments Complete, where my version, I just can't get it to install in the new MacBook, and I ended up just giving up on it. Hardware, on the other hand, is here to stay. And sure, it can blow a fuse at some point and you might need to have it fixed, but for the most part, it's pretty stable and it's reliable. Today's hardware even gets updated from time to time, and it gets new functions that you never knew that were possible, something I rarely saw in plugins while I was using them. Just look at the MPC, the Deluge, Push 3, Elektron, just to name a few. Firmware updates have become the new norm, and we're truly spoiled nowadays in the hardware space. Now, during this whole video, I've intentionally avoided using the word DAWless here, as it has been romanticized to hell and back, and honestly, after the release of machines such as MPC or Push 3 and even the new Elektron boxes, they're basically supercomputers, and I'm pretty sure that the term has lost all meaning. What I am advocating for here is the value of having an instrument, of knowing the ins and outs of a hardware device where each knob and button has a dedicated function for making music, where the barrier between the musical idea and the execution are all but blurred. And just to be clear here, I have nothing against computer-based producers. In fact, more power to them for being able to do so many amazing things in the box. If making music on your phone or on your computer inspires you and makes you happy, then by all means, go for it. Me, I'm old school. I'm sticking with knobs and faders till I buy the farm. How about you? You a fan of hardware instruments? Are you shifting towards software? What are your reasons for sticking with hardware or software? Let me know in the comments below and we can keep the conversation going. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful or at least entertaining. Have a great week. See you next time.